Just because it sounds like international cuisine doesn't mean it is. These exotic delicacies were actually born in the old US of A. It's the 8 foods you didn't know were invented in America. Spaghetti and meatballs are no doubt a staple of Italian-American cuisine, but this slurpy, twirly delight was actually created by Italian immigrants after they arrived in America in the late 1800s. Between the years of 1880 to 1920, over 4 million Italians immigrated to the U.S., the majority of which came from southern Italy. Before immigrating to America, many poor Italians could not afford the large portions of meat needed to make a plate of the jumbo-sized meatballs we know today, and so bigger meatballs became a sign of increasing wealth. Traditional Italian meatballs were small, typically the size of marbles, and usually eaten alone or in soups, and pastas were not traditionally considered a main course. They were more of an appetizer. Italian-American immigrants paired spaghetti with their newly massive meatballs to fit the Anglo-American standard of having a starch with dinner, topped the dish with marinara sauce originally from Naples, and presto, spaghetti and meatballs was born. Molto bene! While incredibly close to Cuba, Florida is still technically in America and is also technically the birthplace of the Cuban sandwich as we know it today. A version of the sandwich is believed to have been created over 500 years ago by the Taino people in Cuba, but they used fish instead of pork and a bread made from yuca. The modern version we know and love was created by Cuban immigrants in Tampa, who blended their traditional recipe with Spanish and Italian ingredients like roasted pork, ham, and salami. There's long been a rivalry between Tampa and Miami over who owns the claim as birthplace of this tasty pile of meat and cheese. While Miami may have made it mainstream, Tampa officially renamed this super sando the historic Tampa Cuban sandwich, just to clear up any confusion about where it was created. Ah, crumpety, craggly, buttery deliciousness. Excuse me, I mean the English muffin, whose name was given in, you guessed it, right here in America. Originally named the toaster crumpet, the English muffin was popularized by Samuel Bath Thomas, a British immigrant who began hawking the scrumptious muffs from his New York City bakery in the late 1800s. Thomas used a secret process of griddle baking to create the signature crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside texture, known today as nooks and crannies. His recipe also omitted baking soda, setting it apart from the crumpets popular in the UK. Hotels soon began serving the muffins as an elegant alternative to toast, and next thing Thomas knew, they had a hit on their hands. After his death, the Thomas family registered the Thomas trademark in 1926, and the rest is delicious breakfast history. For the next food item on our list, the one thing everyone seems to agree on is that it was not invented in Hamburg, Germany. Hamburger patties likely originated from German immigrants who opened restaurants serving plates of ground beef, calling early incarnations Hamburg steaks, after the city of Hamburg, Germany, which was known for its quality beef. However, there are a number of stories explaining how these ground meats came to be swaddled in bread. Allegedly, street vendors in the 1890s wanted to save plates and forks, so instead, they wrapped the ground steaks in bread. Or some say a man from Texas named Fletcher Davis strapped buns to the burgers and brought them to the St. Louis World's Fair in 1904. However, the Library of Congress backs the claim that Louis Lassen invented the hamburger in New Haven, Connecticut in 1895 for fast, easy eating. Regardless of whoever started it, we know we'll sure as heck finish it. These next thingamajigs have a disputed origin story, but one thing we do know is that they are deep-fried delicious. Chimichangas have a storied history of competition and controversy over who claims the changa throne. In the 1920s, Monica Flynn, owner of El Charro's Cafe in Tucson, Arizona, was cooking burritos in the kitchen and accidentally dropped one in the oil. She cussed in frustration, but in an attempt to censor herself in front of her nieces and nephews in the kitchen, she changed the swear word to chimichanga, or thingamajig. Or, in 1946, in Phoenix, Arizona, a man named Woody Johnson first invented the chimichanga by trying to repurpose a batch of day-old burritos, but accidentally dropped them straight into the fryer. One thing is certain, we'd like more, please. Yum! Not Alps, not cheese, we're talking steak. Swiss steak, which may not be related to Switzerland at all. It's believed the pounded steaks got their name from the English term Swissing, which is a method of smoothing out cloth. Because Swiss steaks utilized rougher rump, chuck, or shoulder meat, they needed to be tenderized, hence the Swissing. The recipe first appeared in the U.S. in 1895, brought over by Swiss immigrants in Indiana and Ohio. However, the recipe was very different from the Swiss steak we're familiar with today. The meat was not pounded and did not feature tomatoes. In 1947, Reynolds ran a promotion of their new aluminum foil that included a recipe for Swiss steak, claiming their new foil made cleanup a breeze, which may have contributed to this steak staking its claim in American hearts and tummies. As with most everything else on this list, our next dish is oceans away from the original. General Tso's chicken, as we know it in America, was created in New York City in the 1970s by chef Sung Ting Wang, who copied and adapted a 1950s dish created by Taiwanese chef Peng Chang Kuei. Tweaking it for American tastes, Sung Ting Wang made the originally hot, sour, spicy, and salty dish into a plate of battered chicken and sweet sauce. It's sold by the boxload. Shortly after Sun Ting Wang's adaptation took off, Peng Chang Kuei moved to New York City to open his own restaurant, only to find that Americans were already eating a very different version of his dish. In the end, even its original creator had to adapt General Tso's chicken to accommodate Americans' super sweet taste buds. Today, the staple remains one of the most beloved and iconic Chinese-American dishes. Now this cake is German. Not German like bratwurst or, the country of Germany, but German like some guy named Samuel German. English-born American baker Sam German invented a mild dark baking chocolate in 1852, and in 1957, Texas homemaker Mrs. George Clay submitted a cake recipe using German's chocolate to a Dallas newspaper, and soon it was a massive hit. The cake became so popular nationwide, the recipe circulated to hundreds of newspapers and sales went up 73%. Somewhere along the news line, the apostrophe S was left off the name and the German surname was mixed up with the German country. And the rest, as they say, is Kuchen. While not a single one of these delicious dishes originated outside of the States, we aren't complaining. We'll nom these American noshes just the same. Until next time, be grateful that American meatballs aren't tiny, and don't forget to thank Tia Monica for your chimichangas.